Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Another episode of Genuine Business Stories, where we have real front porch chats that inspire success, fuel ambition, and celebrate journeys that built the businesses we know and love. Today's guest is someone whose story embodies grit, gratitude, family roots, relentless determination. We're sitting down with a man who started his company with nothing more than a rented steam cleaner, a full-time job at the city of Houston, a suggestion from his mother, and a desire to support his family. For long days, late nights, and 12 to 18-hour work schedules, to building trust door by door in Houston's multifamily industry, to innovating systems and procedures that later became industry standards, to ultimately selling his life's work at the perfect moment. This journey is a journey of a true entrepreneur. Today we welcome Andy, say your last name for me?
Grepares.
Grepares, the founder of Golden Greek Carpet Care, which later became known as Golden Greek Carpets, a name that everybody in the Houston multifamily world would have instantly recognized. His story begins with family, grows through integrity, and succeeds through the relentless work ethic. And today, he's here to share the lessons, the turning points, the opportunities, the gratitude, and the mindset that built one of Houston's most respected flooring and carpet companies. So settle in, grab your coffee, and join us with another episode with Front Porch Chats. This is going to be a powerful one. Hey, Andy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Glad to have you on. So, Andy, tell me, before Golden Greek ever existed, what early on entrepreneurial ambitions did you have while you were growing up?
When I was growing up, I always had this dream of being in business and knew nothing about it, but there was this inclination to have my own business someday. And I was raised in Illinois, where there are a lot of unions, and it didn't seem likely. When we moved to Houston, right after I graduated from high school, it seemed to make more sense. There were less unions down here, and that's how it started.
Good. So can you walk us through the moment the idea for the carpet care business was first suggested to you?
Well, the interesting thing is that my mother had just started in the multifamily business as a leasing agent. And she said to me one day, Andy, I saw a business you might think about starting, carpet cleaning. And I said to her, what do they do? And obviously they clean carpets. That was where it all began. The apartment property I was living at was called Kentwood Apartments in Spring Branch. I was on a friendly basis with a manager named Mary Black, and I just happened to be in the office one day, and she was talking about how unhappy she was with the carpet cleaning service that she was using. Because of that little bug that my mother put in my ear, without even thinking about it, I said, Mary, would you let me try? And she seemed surprised, but she said, well, Andy, yeah, but you'll have to do a good job. To me, that's all I knew was how to do a good job, whatever I was doing.
So how did the name Golden Greek come about?
Well,
and what does it represent to you and your family?
Well, that's a good question. I was trying to think what to name this company, and I was at my my grandmother, we called her La Lorene. I was at her house talking with her and my mother.
Okay, I got to stop you. How did you come up with that name for your grandmother? There's usually a story there.
I'm sorry?
How did you come up with the name La Lorene for your grandmother?
Okay, because I'm half Greek, Yaya means grandmother. But we called my Greek grandmother Lala. So my non-Greek grandmother, we called her La Lorene to differentiate them. So we were sitting around talking, and trying to think what to name my company. And suddenly the name came to me, Golden Greek Carpet Care. Now, I found out later there were all kinds of Golden Greek restaurants and Golden Greek wrestlers, and but I never heard that name before. That was actually my idea.
And that's a good name.
They liked it. People, when they realized that the reason that I named it that was because I was a very blonde-headed Greek, and people used to call me the blonde-headed Greek, and that's where I got that idea. And
Well, good. So Mary gave you your first start. When you were starting out, though, did you follow a business plan, or were you just figuring things out as you went along?
I did them as I thought. It came along. I did not have a plan. I had goals, but no plan.
So tell us about that first job you did for Mary.
Well, I learned how to clean carpets. There was a guy that lived in the apartment complex that I did that was already in the carpet cleaning, and he was from California. And what they call steam cleaning was a brand new concept because they were still using rotary type shampooers. He had the opportunity to clean carpets for her, but he wanted more than she was willing to pay. So I approached him about renting a machine from him, and he thought he was getting one over on me to rent his machine at $100 a month. You got to know this, that $100 a month in 1975 was like $600 a month now. But that didn't stop me. I rented that machine, and I rented it for 3 months at $100 a month. And I had a dream of owning my own carpet cleaning machine. And it was hard to find steam cleaners back then. They didn't have all these truck mounts and all the things that they've got now. They were all portables. And there was a company called Clark that later became Clark and Gravely. And I got me a Cadillac carpet cleaning machine. So I brought it home to show Mary. I was so excited. For that 3 months prior to that, I was using, obviously, the rental machine. I said, Mary, I want to show you my new carpet cleaning machine. She said, oh my gosh, Andy, can you take it back? I said, I don't think so. Why? She said, because I've lost my job here. I'm no longer the manager, and there's no way I can guarantee you the work. So the thought that flashed through my mind was I wasn't married. The worst thing that could happen was I would end up with a carpet cleaning machine that I may never use again. But on the flip side, there was no telling how it would end up. So I just said, Mary, I'm sorry you lost your job, but if you really truly believe I do a good job, would you please put a good word for me with the new manager, Margot Ayers? And she did, and it worked. And for months after that, I was doing the carpet cleaning.
Right there you see relationships build revenue. They're the key to everything.
Oh, yeah.
And with the gentleman that rented you the first machine and showed you, that's what I believe that as business owners and entrepreneurs, we actually have a responsibility to pay that forward, helping out a new business owner. And usually it's with wisdom that we've garnered. There are a lot of times people learn best from our mistakes. I sure don't mind sharing my mistakes, and I've sure made my fair share. So in the early days, tell me what your daily work schedule looked like.
Well, at the very beginning, again, with my used carpet cleaning machine I was renting, I would clean until late at night, get up for early in the morning to go to my job at the City of Houston Water Division. And I'd get up early enough to go and check the jobs I did the night before because I just wanted to have one last look to see how good they looked. And then I'd go to work.
It's a good feeling, a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment when you see that.
I often ask the manager, please go look at the job and tell me that you're happy with it. And it got to the point where they didn't look because they knew it would be good. But yeah, I wanted that affirmation that they were pleased with the work because I felt like I was lucky that they gave me the opportunity.
So they gave you the opportunity. From there, how did you start growing your business?
Well, okay, going back to when I was still using the rented carpet cleaning machine, after about 4 to 6 weeks, Mary Black came to me and said, Andy, I'm sorry, but you need to learn how to do carpet repairs because no one else will do them. The company that sell carpet, new carpet, they won't come and do them. So I thought, oh my gosh, I got this business going and I'm already doing well. I don't want to lose it. So I went out and bought $500 worth of carpet repair tools, which that's multiply that times five. I mean 6, and
And you know what? You didn't have YouTube to teach you how to do that stuff like we have today.
boy, you make a good point because I was reading this stuff and I'm a visual learner and I'm thinking, oh my God, how am I going to learn how to do this? So, Mom came to rescue. I called her up and said, Mom, I've got these tools. I've got to learn how to do carpet repairs. Would you please talk to your carpet guys and see if I took a few days off from the city, if I could work for free to learn the basics of carpet repairs? And I took 3 days off. That was Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesday, half a day. My first carpet patch was an apartment where there had been a shooting, and this is before we had all the blood restrictions that we have now. And I did a heck of a nice patch. I know now she was testing me. Back then, I just said, I got to do a patch. Go do this patch. And the second day, I learned tack strip, and by the third, by Friday, I doubled my income. I mean, obviously, I had to learn to get quicker at it, but I doubled my income because I was doing repairs too. And I didn't realize it at the time how valuable I was to these managers because I did a good job at these repairs. I saved them so much money by saving carpets that
So now you've moved on and acquired additional properties that you're working at.
At that particular time, I was still doing Kentwood Apartments. It wasn't until after Mary Black left that I started expanding. She moved to another property called Big Bend Apartments, so I continued to do Kentwood Apartments, and I began to do Big Bend Apartments, and so many things happened through Big Bend Apartments. It's just amazing. It's serendipity at its best.
You ever notice sometimes when a challenge comes up and we're thinking, uh-oh, I was not expecting this, that when you can look back in hindsight, that may be the event that led you to be able to go straight into the flooring business and diversify because of the additional properties. So now Mary Black is left. She's with Big Bend. That opens up more opportunities where if she would have stayed at that property, you would have become pretty content there for a little bit to just clean and repair carpets there.
Yeah. At some point, I can jump forward and tell you that there was a point that it wasn't then, but there was a point that I was content, but I knew that I shouldn't be, because we had picked up a company called Gilling Water Management through Big Bend, ultimately, and the company exploded. By the way, when I left my city job in '85, I left because a gentleman named Jim Thomas that I knew through Moody Ramblin' Company, we became friends, and he changed jobs to a company called Luma Corp, Luma. And he called me up one day and said, Andy, you still want to sell carpet? And I said, well, yeah, Jim. So I said, well, I got a 250 unit property over off in Spring Branch off of Kentwood and Newlands, and every unit needs new carpet. And so I said, I'm in. I loved my city job, though. I thought I'd go and get that thing rolling. You get that new construction job, that rehab going, and but I couldn't leave because once I started that, it exploded. And Lumacorp picked another property up off of Gessner and Westheimer, and then through that, I picked up a company called Levering and Reed, with huge, probably over 2,000 units worth of apartments that we were doing the relays on, and there was no way I could go back to my city job.
So, Andy, we're going to back up a little bit. So, at what point did you start becoming profitable?
I was profitable immediately because I had a full-time job at the city. And every penny that I made, I put back in the company. Going back when I first got my first carpet cleaning machine, I went and borrowed $2,500, and I paid it off in 90 days because every penny that I made, I put back in the carpet cleaning business, in the carpet repair business, and consequently, once I got that paid off in 90 days, the thought was in my mind that I don't want to lose my customers. If my machine breaks down and needs to be repaired, I may lose this account because I'll have to bring someone else in and they'll get a foot in the door. So I went out and bought got another $2,500 loan, paid it off in 90 days, and just had that machine sitting there just in case. But it wasn't
a backup machine in case your first one breaks down.
Yes, but it didn't sit there long because I started picking up other properties, and before you knew it, I had them both running.
So you, at that point, must have hired somebody to run the second machine.
I did, and for a while I was still working with the city and working off a pager. We didn't have cell phones, and all we had was pagers that would do phone numbers. And I was running this business from payphones all over the city of Houston while I'm working for the water division, answering questions and telling them what to do.
So did you hire a family member to run the second machine, or?
Eventually, yes. At first, it was a guy that I knew that lived on my property called Greg Bogart, and he was running, and he had a truck and all that. But once I left the city and I could drive around a little bit more, of all things, my sister wanted to work for me. And I didn't think it was a ladylike job. And she accused me of being a male chauvinist. So I said, okay, you can do it. And she ended up doing a pretty good job. And later on, I hired both my brothers. I had my mother working for me. At some point, I had every member of the family working for me. But it went well. But it is hard having family work for you at the same time.
So at this point, when you're having family work for you, have you transitioned to Golden Greek Carpets, or are you still your cleaning business?
That was still the cleaning business. Sometime after I'd left the city, because they were working for me before I left the city. My brothers and my sister, we would work on nights and weekends. And sometime after I left the city, after Jim Thomas gave me that opportunity at a property on Gessner, I knew I had to change the name to where it really talked more about carpets and carpet cleaning. You couldn't sell carpets in floor covering with calling Golden Greek Carpet Care. So, a friend of mine named Paula Gabriel, a wonderful woman, she's an attorney, and she had just gotten her license, and she helped me incorporate. She did it right. And so we became Golden Greek Carpets, Inc. And back then, there wasn't as much hard surface. It was mostly carpet.
Well, that also meant that you had more turnover for
that was a good thing.
Too.
I kind of liked it. Even though there was things I didn't like they used to put carpet around the toilets. And then they also put it in the vanities. So it's unsanitary in the bathrooms and the vanities because of makeup and all that. It would ruin the carpet. And I thought, these areas shouldn't be carpeted. And really the dining room shouldn't either. And, darned if eventually they didn't.
Yeah. So tell us, at the point that you transitioned into carpet care, also selling carpet, how many properties did you have when you made that decision to start with your cleaning business?
Okay, when I left the cleaning and going into installations?
Yeah, so you started building, you had your cleaning business. By this point, that's really taken off for you.
Yeah, after Big Bend, I actually wanted to sell carpets. I saw carpet installations, and I thought that's what I wanted to do. Again, I didn't have a plan, I just had a dream. And I started selling carpet to Mary Black at Big Bend, and I didn't make it. I had to pay a distributor, and I could basically sell the carpet at the same price I was buying it for. And the only thing I made the money on the installation. But I just felt that was the price I had to pay to become recognized as the provider for carpet installations. And I did a few properties here, a few properties there. But again, when it exploded, it was when Jim Thomas called me up.
So were you doing the installations yourself, or is this something where you had this piece and you were subbing this piece out and then putting your margins on top of the subs?
Yeah, well, there was no margin when I first started on the carpet, but it was just I was only making money on the installation. But yeah, later I had to get installers, and the business grew so fast that the only thing holding me back was installers, having enough installers. And I remember it was hard for me to attract installers because they wanted the most important thing to a carpet installer was to feel secure that they had steady work,
Yeah.
and they didn't want to leave a job with an established company for a startup company where they couldn't be too sure. So I kind of had to go at the bottom of the rung, not as far as quality, but guys that maybe are a little bit rough on down on their luck. And I would meet them at a property with this truck that my father-in-law lent me, and they'd pull all the old carpet out. I'd give them the new carpet, and we'd load it up, and I'd go take it to the dumpster. And that's what I started out with installers. But yeah, I had to have installers. I couldn't do it all myself.
So to grow your business to this point, from the carpet cleaning, it's relationships that put you in the position, but were you doing additional marketing, or was it all word of mouth because of the quality that you were providing people?
Every bit was word of mouth. My motto was quality without compromise, and I believed in it. And not only did I believe in it, I would instill that in everyone, even my installers. I would tell them, look, guys, you can work anywhere, but you like working for me. I need installers. You need a place to work. Do a good job. I'd pat them on the back and thank them for what they were doing. And but yeah, it was years later that I did any advertising, and eventually I did some stuff in the Yellow Pages, joined HAA, and
So at what point did you join HAA? And for our listeners, that's the Houston Apartment Association. At one time it was the largest apartment association in the nation.
Probably in the early 90s, when it was something that more like I felt I had to do than to show my appreciation for the industry, rather than I didn't do it for business. I did it out of respect for the industry that was giving me so many opportunities.
Yeah, I think that probably turned out well, because I know it reached a point that they started wanting to do business with those that were part of the association, and that become kind of that circle of where the vendors were that the property management companies were using.
Yeah, it did.
Did you have any tough times in the beginning where you started going, wow, I'm not sure if this is going to work, or did you have were you stable before our economy kind of started slowing down once you had?
85 was a terrible time in Houston. They had pictures, they had shows on the national news that made us look like Detroit. We had all these vacancies because we were the oil industry, and there was a downturn in the oil industry, and there were vacant properties all over Houston. And it's almost nuts that I left a full-time job at that time, but I didn't even think about it. I just saw this opportunity, and I pursued it. But there was lots of downturns, and in those downturns, maybe my company didn't grow, but it didn't retract either. What I use as a gauge is what the other carpet company were doing. If their business was down, then I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel like I was losing our market share.
So at this point, you've grown to doing carpet. Are you still doing cleaning also?
We did cleaning for a few years, and I sold it in probably the early 90s to a guy that worked for me that wanted to clean carpets. And the reason I sold it was this. It took the same amount of effort to schedule and do a carpet cleaning job as it did, which I might make 30%, but 30% of $30, where I might make 20% on selling a carpet, but 20% on $500.
Yeah.
And so it didn't make sense. The effort it took to clean carpet didn't make sense. So yeah, I sold it, and again, probably in the early 90s. And it was a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders because I could focus on what I made money at.
So when you started this business, you were single. When did the most important piece of your life come in with Jan? At what point in the business?
That too, I owed to Big Bend Apartments. And I met her in the office. Funny story is that she came to pick up a dress to wear to some function she was going to that night.
So was Jan in multifamily at the time? You said you met her in the office, or
No,
what was she doing at that time?
I was sitting in the office speaking to Mary Black, the manager.
Oh.
And Jan came to get a box that was delivered there during the day. And I said to her, oh, she showed the dress to Mary Black. And I said, oh, you have to let me see that sometime. 10 minutes later, she walks in with the dress on. And the rest is history.
Very good. How many kids do you two have?
We have two.
2 kids. And they are boys?
They're both boys.
Well, they're men by now.
Yeah, boys to me, but yes.
Well, our kids are always our kids, even when they're old, but they're reaching the point they are men and women.
Yeah, you don't realize that.
But not the same in our families. But
do what now?
They're men or women in our family.
Oh, yeah, not ours.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the processes that you put in place in order to be able to scale. You're with Big Bend. You've started getting some properties in there. At this point, you're scaling your business, so you're going to have to start putting some processes in. And let's kind of walk through how you did that to start growing your business.
Well, one thing is that I've always believed in surrounding myself with good people. And I was a little bit hesitant to make the overhead too high. So I worked with a pretty slim staff. I remember for the first couple of years, every summer was like a challenge to get through that summer. We were so busy. I would literally, I could have someone sitting at my desk talking with me and have a phone to each ear, juggling those 3 conversations all at once, to keep the business going, because I didn't have too many people. I first brought in someone to help me with answering the phone. So
at this point, you've gone to where now you have office and warehouse.
Absolutely, yeah. We
So we missed that. Let's back up a little bit. At what point did you realize you needed to get an office with warehouse? Were you doing the steam cleaning just alone at that point, or at that point was it when you brought in the carpet sales on the side?
Oh, it definitely when I brought the carpet sales in. When I got that big job I was talking about on Gessner, I would go to T&L Distributing and pick up 10 rolls of carpet at a time, put them under my carport, because I had to have them there for the next morning when the installers came. We'd roll the carpet down. Fortunately, we lived on a dead-end street, but still, we had neighbors. We'd roll the carpet out and cut it, and they'd go take it to the job. Back then, carpet had fuzz. It was real fuzzy. It was called staple yarn. And I knew that the neighbors didn't appreciate all the installers lined up down the street with their trucks. And they also didn't appreciate too much that fuzz rolling down the road like tumbleweeds. So before anyone complained, I started looking for a place to rent, and I found it, also in Spring Branch.
So at this point, now you're growing. You've got your office, you've got your warehouses. What are some of the first things you knew you need to put in place? Were you still running the warehouse too while you were selling? Or
Yes.
Did you have somebody out in the warehouse? And
Yeah, when you say selling, it's amazing. I didn't have to do much selling. I did every now and then I go on sell, but all this stuff just kept coming in. I was more busy keeping up with the work. And I ran the installers. I was there when they were cutting. I scheduled the work. I scheduled the work for a long time, and because I want to have certain installers at certain properties, and it was way down the road before I actually let someone start scheduling the work. But yeah, we did it.
so you're scheduling. What was your processes then? Did you have installers that showed up every morning, and then you assigned jobs to them? And how did you kind of decide which installers you wanted to send where?
Well, for one thing, you learn pretty quick who the better ones were. They were all good, but some were better than others. And then people like consistency. So if I had an installer that a certain property was used to, I'd try my darn best to send that same installer to that property. The bigger our company got, the more jobs we had, the harder that became. But also, if we had a new company, brand new customer, then we would try our best to get there. I would try my best to put my very best guy on that to make a good impression on them.
So as you start hiring, you said that you'd started hiring family. That can be challenging at times. So how did you balance, Andy, with getting the most out of your family members? As an entrepreneur, it's obvious with the way you were growing, it was exciting and you wanted to continue to grow. How was that balance to make sure your family kept motivated, but you didn't have to be too hard on them if they started slacking a little bit? That would be a lot more challenging than employees that were not family to do.
Yeah, to the most part, my family, they were all good workers. I didn't have a problem with that. The problem is that when you have family and you have other employees, your family thinks that you're not treating them as well as everyone else, and everyone else thinks you're treating your family better. And that was a real headache.
Yeah. So at what point, you're growing here, you're picking up new properties. At what point did you pick up an entire property management company, where it's not just a property here and a property there? Because that's when I know that business really started scaling.
Yeah, it could have been Gilling Water Management. I take that back. Lumacorp was my first management company. They picked up a few properties. But as a result of that, I picked up Levering and Reed, which had a few very large properties, upscale properties. But again, going back to Big Bend, I met a woman that was in Big Ben's office, and she suggested I should go right down the street to a place called Cornerstone Chase. There was a new management company called Gilling Water Management, and that she thought that, it might be to my best interest to go there. So I went there and got to know the guy that was the president of Houston. His name was Bob Evanecki. And that company exploded. And they were picking up properties right and left. And my challenge was, making sure I got paid. And one of the first pieces of advice that Mary Black gave me was, don't bite off more you can chew, and don't be afraid to ask for your money, because they know they owe you the money. They know that you're right to ask for it. And I had to ask a lot, but Bob always came through. And Gilling Water became a huge company, and that's when I was become complacent. I thought I got all the business I could ever want. But
so how big is your team at this time now? Because as you start scaling to that size, how big is your team, and what did you start looking for? Because by now you've got a feel for the business. When you were looking and hiring employees, what qualities were you starting to look for?
The foremost important thing to me is having people I could trust. And the first net list is trust their intention, but the second is to trust their judgment. And because even if they have good intentions, if they make a bad judgment call, it can hurt just as bad as if it was bad intentions.
Yeah. So trust but verify.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Trust but verify.
Yes. Yeah. And I didn't have a roadmap. I had a customer named John Goodman, who was also very helpful in my business, and he helped me with another big management company called River Oaks Management. John's fiance, who became his wife, Joan Goodman, was an accountant, so she started doing my books. Now this is even before I moved into to my own office space and warehouse, but I just found people as I went. There's usually someone that I knew, or someone that I knew that they knew someone. They were just like my customers. They were all brought in by referral, or by my own personally knowing them.
So at what point you're growing did you decide to bring in a coach, and what triggered that decision that you needed to bring in a business coach?
Well, first of all, I made a lot of mistakes because I didn't have any training. I basically came fresh out of high school, and 3 years later, I started a business. And we went through some hard times because of making bad choices. At one point, I lost most of my sales team, and I realized that that I must have been doing something wrong. So I started seeing a coach that I first started working on me, and I liked the results so much that I wanted to do it for everyone. And so I asked him if he would entertain coming into my office and coaching whoever wanted coaching. And he agreed. I knew that people would be hesitant to talk with him at first because he was my coach. But I had no intention of him telling me what they told him, and he wouldn't have anyway. Eventually, they all came to trust him. But at first, no one wanted to take me up on the offer. He'd come in like once a week. There was a waiting line, people waiting to want to see him and talk with him. The reason I wanted to bring him in was because I felt that, I don't know if we hear it so much these days, but people used to say you leave your problem at the door, leave your troubles at the door. That's just talk. It's with you all the time. And I felt that if I could help them unload some of the baggage they're carrying around, not only would help them in their personal lives, but it would also help them be better team members.
Absolutely brilliant approach. So what are some of the leadership lessons that you learned from him?
Well, one of them is that I had ADD, which I guess is not uncommon with entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But what I really learned is how important people are. And I don't think I ever saw people as disposable. But I just realized it was a tough experience losing, my salespeople like that. And actually, we lost 2/3 of our company's net worth within a 2-year period. And so I was committed to keep the business going. I will tell you that I came home during that time and would look at my kid's face and think, oh my gosh, I got to make this work. What am I going to do for my kids? And so I was ripe for change.
How we treat our staff. I watched a documentary once on Lincoln Electric. And they showed that even through the Great Depression, and when I saw this documentary, it was in the late 90s, I believe, maybe early 2000s. And they always made their employees feel like they had ownership. In fact, the bonuses that those employees got for profit sharing, most of the time were larger than their salaries. So there was incentive for these employees to perform. And in that documentary, what they discussed was even going through the Great Depression, that company was profitable going through there. Too many business owners don't realize just how important their employees are. And everybody likes money, but a lot of times people want recognition, want to feel appreciated. But as you and I were talking before the show, it is also learning your team, learning what drives each individual. One might be money, one might be words of affirmation. Another one, it might be, give me a couple more days off if I've done something really well and earned it. And, our employees will either make or break our businesses. And I think a lot of times business owners believe I'm the end all be all. And people forget the cost to training an employee that you put in to get that employee to where they are profitable for your business. So you better take care of them, or you're going to be repeating that process quite often trying to train somebody. Is that something your business coach helped you with and helped the team with?
Yeah, you're seeing the choir because I, totally believe in the idea of what it costs to train someone new. And I've never had this attitude that, people are a dime a dozen, and a lot of people in business that I came across had that attitude. But it takes so much to train someone. And let's say if that person is going through some personal troubles and you got a good employee, but for some reason they stumbled a little bit, it's to their advantage and yours to work with them to get them back on their feet again, because they are a good employee. That whatever they're suffering through at that moment is temporary.
A company's real value is in the people that show up every day for it. And it's important for us as business leaders to remember, if it's important to our teams, it needs to be important to us too, especially for our profitability and bottom line.
Oh, well, you're so right. And yes, I believe that what was important to my people was important to me. And everyone they're a little bit different. And I've never believed in one size fits all. I tried to become aware of what was important to them. And you can't do everything, but you can try. Something else that we did was, because I wanted everyone to be invested in the company. So I wanted them to know how the company was doing. So we got these little signs, the electronic signs that could be adjusted. And there was one in the office and one in the warehouse. And it would show how many jobs we had done so far that month. Because we had goals to meet as far as number of jobs we did. And I would have a silver dollar. And I would go up and say, I would not be standing where they could look over my shoulder and see the sign and say, how many jobs have we done so far today? And they might say, 400 jobs so far this month. I give them their silver dollar. And they all learn to stay on top of it. And if we hit our goal, everyone got a bonus of some sort. Everyone throughout the company. From the guy sweeping the floors to my right-hand person, who was, at that time became Kim Wilbanks. But
that leads into what I wanted to talk about. So at what point did you bring Kim in? And I know Kim is a very special person, and she meant a lot to your business.
She meant more to my business than I ever realized until later. But I realized she did a lot for us. I met her through Mike Martin. And I actually knew
And
Kim.
Mike Martin was?
Martin was the coach I brought in. I'm
right.
Sorry. Yeah. And I asked him, Mike, what do you think about Kim? Filling this position for me. And he had to give it a little bit of thought, and he thought it was a good idea. But I want to say it was a great idea.
Yeah.
And she was someone I could trust. I could trust not just the keys to the car, but the keys to the kingdom. And she did everything, but she helped make our company more like a company. She helped us get everyone insured with a good insurance policy, and it set vacation days and days off and personal days and things that I never even would have dreamed I could afford. That she helped bring all that to fruition.
So who was your first sales hire that really started helping you grow your business, that found success throughout the industry?
Okay, at Woodlake in the Bayou, which was at one of those Levering and Reed properties, the assistant manager's husband was named Reed Phipps. And Reed Phipps was working for a competitor, but he was not happy there. So I brought Reed in. Reed had ADD on steroids, but he was a good salesman. And he would not give up. People would buy from him just to get him out of their office, because he would keep coming back. No matter what they said, he coming back. So he really helped me build, put me on the map, I guess I should say.
So then let's go in. When I met you, you had Trish, you had Abel, you had John, and I believe you had a salesperson named Lauren. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I also had someone really important to me named Greg Corner.
Okay.
And Greg Corner had come from...
I remember Greg.
He
Yes.
came from a big company, the nationwide company that Carpet Tile, Tile, a big company that was national, Color Tile.
Color Tile.
And they went bankrupt. And he came in, and without me even realizing it, so much is more obvious to us when we look back. He helped build my team, and we started doing work out of state. We did work in Mississippi, and another one right out in that area, Georgia or something. And there was a big hurricane, and so we completely recarpeted these two big, huge apartment complexes, and he cross-trained everyone where they could do commercial work as well as residential, and of course apartments. We considered apartments more residential than we did commercial.
So there reached a point, obviously, that you expanded from just doing multifamily where you started to where I'm guessing you were doing the commercial side with office buildings and things like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, we started doing commercial building. I did a little bit prior to that. Another funny story is that before I got that big apartment complex I was telling you about, the one in Gessner, a friend of mine named John Ellis, that he was in charge of several commercial buildings. There was one on 2990 Richmond that needed new carpet in the hallways. And it was 1,000 yards of carpet, which is 5 rolls, but I thought that was all the carpet in the world. I was so excited, I went and bought a cigar and was driving around smoking my cigar, relishing in my success. But that was my first commercial job.
And did you ever do single dwelling homes also?
We did. Most of them were by referral that I either knew through the apartment industry or, somehow some other way that they became aware that we did carpet, and yeah. But we didn't ever advertise other than in the Yellow Pages.
So your sales team that you brought in, did you have somebody that specifically did mostly commercial because that was their expertise? And I know your team that did multifamily, early on that we'd seen. We've talked about some of those names, but for the single dwelling homes, I'm guessing at that point your salespeople were just kind of crossing into that as it was needed, and it wasn't a dedicated salesperson just to go out to sell the homes.
You're exactly right. Same with commercial, that they crossed over. I saw some opportunity with the commercial work, but apartments was our bread and butter. So we just looked at the commercial and the residential work as gravy, but the bread and butter is what kept us going.
You figure out what you do well. You serve people well, and they'll carry your name farther than any marketing campaign you can find. So
yes,
that as we go to the names that we listed, when I met you, your company was very active in the Houston Apartment Association. How did you find that benefited you, and did you do sponsorships, or how did you work your relationships within the Houston Apartment Associations?
Well, to begin with, I knew most of these people because I've been doing work for so long. A name that will mean something to some people, but maybe others may not recognize it, was Eileen Sabinski and Gerald Ducote. And again, from Big Bend Apartments, I was referred to a property called Bear Creek Village. And there was a brand new management company called LBI. And Eileen was the manager, and Cheryl Ducote was the assistant manager. And when they weren't managing, if a maid didn't show up, they would clean the units. And I got to know them, and again, struck a great relationship. But people knew me. And years later, I would have a salesperson go out to pick up a new property, and that customer would say, "Well, who are you with?" And the salesperson would say, "Golden Gate Carpets," and they go, "Oh, I know Andy," and everyone knew me as through Golden Greek Carpets. I was the Golden Greek.
Yeah. So I'm guessing the apartment association that I know and see today while you were growing your business, I'm guessing that association was just starting to come into its own.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
They were just starting to come into their own. It was kind of
Yes.
new as businesses were starting to join the association. And
At the real early days of my business, Harold Farm owned more properties than all the rest of the property owners combined. And he didn't feel a need for the Houston Apartment Association, but it did grow in importance. And, for instance, Eileen Sabensky became the president of the Houston Apartment Association at some point, and several other people I did work with also. But yes, it became extremely important. So I'm so glad that I recognized the importance of being a member there, although it was mostly out of gratitude.
yeah. So, Andy, what ultimately led to your decision to sell?
It was, first of all, it was a tough call. No. I foresaw hard surfaces, the apartments were going to be moving into hard surfaces. And that hard surfaces need to be replaced less than the carpets do, obviously. And even with the number of competitors I had then, it would really been a small pie to split. So that was always rolling around in the back of my mind. But I was approached by a venture capitalist group by a friend, Kerry Jackson. We were actually part of a group called American Flooring Alliance. And their whole intention was to one day roll everything up and sell it. My intentions were just to learn all I could, because we were all from different geographical areas. We could not be in the same geographical area. And there was things that we could learn from each other. And, we learned a lot.
So they were somewhat of a holdings company then, where they would buy companies,
Yeah.
hold for a time, and then sell the company.
Yeah, and I guess you call it serendipity. Again, I felt sooner or later that there'd be less carpet to be replaced. Never could have dreamed that Houston would have the explosion in growth that we've had. But I lost my thought.
Hey, so at this point, after you sold it, I'm guessing, was it a time of was it a long time of negotiations, or did the deal kind of come together quick?
Come again?
When you started, Kerry Jackson approaches you.
Yes.
Was it a long period of time that transpired before a deal was struck?
It seemed like a very long time. I don't know if it was really a year, but it felt like it. And the interesting thing, everyone was thinking I was the luckiest guy in the world, because we closed on the sale of my business in July 31st, 2008. You know what happened in October?
Yeah. Housing crisis.
Yes.
Crashed.
And it was a really rough time, for that business. So, I slipped in right at the end there, or slipped out.
So you sold the business. Did you stay on for a while to help with the transition?
I stayed on for 2 years. I had a 3-year contract, but I stayed on for 2 years.
2 years. And if my memory's right, during that 2 years, we had a hurricane hit, didn't we?
We did, and we just blew it off the chart. Because of 2008, and Houston's economy was a little bit better anyway than the rest of the nation during that time. I was told by the venture capitalist group managing partner, Jeff Bland, that Andy, Houston's the engine pulling the rest of the whole rest of the train. If it weren't for you guys, we don't know what we do. And then the hurricane helped all that much more. But I don't think it was just a hurricane. We were a well-run company, and we've been through lots of hurricanes before. And one thing that is when you have a hurricane, you do a lot of work, and then it's going to be a little bit slower afterwards, but not that slow, but it's going to be a little slower. But Yeah, the hurricane did help our numbers though. We added a couple $100,000 to our sales for that one particular month after the hurricane.
Well, you still had to be in a position with the relationships to earn that business quickly to move with that hurricane for that growth. So
Yeah,
there was a lot of years of dues paid for that hurricane. As much as you hate the tragedy that it causes and the loss to business, you were still had put yourself in that position to reap the rewards of all the replacement of the carpets and new flooring that went into that.
yeah.
So, looking back now, how do you define success? Any different from the beginning?
Well, probably. I think some of it, no. Some of it's not different. Um, it's working hard, not being afraid to take risk, but not taking stupid risk. But you got there's always going to be risk involved. Um, just being committed. I don't know how to put this. I didn't particularly fear failure, but I didn't want it, and I did everything I could to avoid failure, and that made me work hard too. But the people part is something I did learn through the whole thing. I know that you needed people, but it's more than just bodies. You're taking them as a whole.
Yeah, Andy, you don't necessarily build a business; you build people, and then people help you build your business.
Yeah.
So, what did life look like after you sold Golden Creek?
For a while, I wandered in the wilderness. I mean, that was my baby. That was my identity.
Didn't you do some house flipping afterwards?
Yeah, and I'm still looking at that. But yes, I flipped quite a few houses and built a couple new ones as well for the first few years after having sold the company.
So you also invested in a company that your brother runs. Is that correct, or that your brother's at?
Yes, it's called IRPG for IRP Graphics. And they've been around for a good while. I actually bought the company in 2012, but I really bought it more to help my brother. And we just recently brought on another partner that was also from the industry, and we're in a growth mode again. And we're doing more things than just printing. It's really, I say printing, but it's really reprographics. One of our biggest customers is Papa's, and then we also have a big customer.
So tell us what the company does.
Well, for like Papa's, we make menus. We copy menus. When they have their big meetings, we put their brochures, their booklets together. We print big.
So do you do the laminated menus that we see them use, or
We'll do laminated ones. Yeah, however they want them. We'll do laminated ones. Or most of them aren't laminated.
do you do banners and things for the businesses, or?
Yes, that's where I was going for banners. We do the banners, and you'll see these, big posters on the wall that showing the different products that they have, different foods and so forth. And we do that. That's what this new guy Gio brought in is the equipment to do that with.
So give the company your brother's at, that you're a partner in, a shout out, and tell people how they can get in touch with that company if they need graphic work.
It's called IRP Graphics. They can the website www.irpgraphics.com. They're at 3925 Tacoma Street, and they're there, man. They're there to serve.
Do you have a phone number handy?
I do. The office number is 713-316-9774.
All right.
And the email is orders at irpggraphics.com.
Great. So, Andy, during the years of intense work and growth, how did you find that you recharged yourself? Because we can't come home to our wives grumpy all the time because of a stressful day. They might put you out in the shop working on a project or something.
Yeah, we like to travel. We took our kids a lot, to Disney World, go fishing every now and then. But really, my biggest thing was work. That's all I knew my whole life was work, work, work.
So outside of business, who or what inspires you the most?
Well, I don't want to get political, but I do support.
President Trump.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I support President Trump. I don't think he makes all the right decisions, but I think he makes a lot more right than wrong.
So what advice do you have for other new entrepreneurs starting out?
Believe in yourself, believe in your dream, work hard, be honest. Integrity is so important.
So what is the best piece of business wisdom you ever received?
Probably from Mary Black. Don't grow quicker than you can because a bird in the hand is worth two in the bushes. And don't be afraid to ask for your money.
Good. Andy, we're going to go into what we call the lightning round. Your favorite thing about the flooring and carpet industry?
It's in my blood. I mean, there's a saying, it used to be when carpet was made of nylon, once you get nylon in your blood, it never leaves. And the floor covering business is still in my blood. I love doing things for people, making them happy. You do a carpet job and that's like a new car for some people. I mean, I love, the feeling of doing things like that for people and seeing them smile.
What was your least favorite thing?
Well, I never liked vinyl floors. They were 10% of my business, 90% of my headaches.
Yes. So what's the one tool or machine that you could not have lived without in the early days of that business?
Obviously, the carpet cleaning machine. And besides that, seam iron.
Favorite Houston memory from that era?
Houston was such a nice little town then. I didn't think so at the time, but oh gosh, things were different then. They didn't have fences all around apartment complexes, and it was just a nice town.
Good deal. One word that best describes your younger self as a business owner.
Determined.
We're going to go into a segment that I've added to our show called the Business Insurance Spotlight. Before we wrap up today's episode, we're going to take a moment to highlight the types of business insurances that would be typically used to protect a business like Andy's. Number one would be general liability insurance. It protects against slip and fall injuries, property damage, and liabilities that can arise while working inside apartment units or common areas. Number two is commercial property insurance. It covers your equipment and your tools at your offices, your inventory, your workspace. Number three, workers' compensation. When you have employees, that is what protects you if that employee gets hurt on your job. You can need commercial auto insurance. It'll cover your vehicles used while transporting your business and what you're going to do to work there. Inland marine, tools and equipment. That protection is for any equipment that's on your commercial vehicles while you're transporting. Something happens to the equipment. And excess liability, that provides an extra layer of protection beyond your primary liability policy limits. Every flooring or service-based business has unique risks, so coverages needs, they can vary. Insurance disclaimer, this information is general in nature. Always consult a licensed commercial insurance agent to review your operations, assess your company's risk, and determine the right coverages for your specific business. Andy, I want to thank you for joining us today and for sharing a very genuine, humbling, and powerful journey. Your story is a reminder that success is built one relationship at a time, one opportunity at a time, and one act of integrity at a time. The golden Greek name clearly meant something special. And after hearing your story, It's easy to see why it has left such a lasting mark on the people you served and the teams you built. We appreciate you for being part of the Genuine Business Stories family. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Genuine Business Stories. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love to have you consider being a sponsor, making a donation back to Lone Star Community Radio, or simply sharing this episode with a friend, neighbor, or fellow entrepreneur. This show is only possible because of Lone Star Community Radio, and we thank them. And hey, if you know a small business owner with a story worth sharing, have them reach out to us. They just might be our next guest. Until next time, keep showing up, keep building, and keep it genuine. Thank you.